This is the JTV Caribbean News. I'm Sean Rose. Guyana's tourism sector has shown strong growth so far in 2013, according to data from the Caribbean Tourism Organization. The country received 117,517 tourist arrivals from January to August, an increase of 12.4% so far this year. That included a 21.6% number for the winter season, according to the CTO data. According to Carib Journal, Guyana, one of the leading commodities exporters in the Caribbean, has been looking in recent years to ramp up its tourism sector with a focus on ecotourism. Last year, Guyana received 176,642 tourist arrivals, itself a 12.6% increase over the previous year. That was the second fastest increase of any destination, with more than 100,000 visitors after Cancun. One day after the announcement that former Turks and Caicos Premier Michael Misik's extradition from Brazil had been approved, Turks and Caicos Islands Attorney General Hugh Shepard tendered his resignation. The decision comes a few months after Shepard's term had been extended by 36 months to 2016. Shepard has served in the post since 2010, 2 years before democratic rule was restored in TCI. Shepard and the recently elected government in Turks and Caicos, led by Premier Dr. Rufus Ewing, have had a frequently tumultuous relationship. Earlier this year, Ewing called for the recall of Shepard, and when Shepard's extension was announced in August, Ewing said in a statement that the move showed a total disregard for the people and the office of the Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Earlier this month, Premier Ewing went to the Supreme Court, asking the Attorney General to clarify his understanding of certain aspects of the Constitution, according to his office. In Wednesday's statement, Shepard signaled his intention to file legal charges against the TCI government for reputational and other damages. $5 million worth of cocaine hidden in cornflakes boxes was found on Wednesday, October 30, aboard a vessel at the Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. The vessel was bound for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the quantum of cocaine is approximately 13 kilograms. According to Trinidad's Customs and Excise Division, they received information about narcotics being aboard a vessel named Elita. When Customs and Excise officers raided the vessel, the cocaine was found in the cornflakes boxes, which had been wrapped in black material and hidden amid other cargo, including soft drinks and foodstuff. The drugs were later removed and taken to Customs House in Port of Spain for closer inspection. Customs and Excise officials told reporters they received information that the cocaine was brought into Trinidad from South America a few days ago and was scheduled to be sent to St. Vincent before being shipped to a European destination. Crew members of the ship were questioned by the authorities, and up to news time investigations were said to be ongoing by the customs officials and the Organized Crime, Narcotics and Firearms Bureau in Trinidad and Tobago. The Rastafarian community in St. Lucia has welcomed the confirmation by the government of St. Lucia of plans to set up a National Reparations Committee to look at the atrocities of slavery. The Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari says the group should have a prominent position on that committee. The call comes as Britain is being pressured, along with France and the Netherlands, by the Caribbean community CARICOM, demanding what could be hundreds of billions of pounds in reparations for slavery. Alison Kentish of HTS News Force has this report.
175 years after Britain freed its last slaves in the West Indies, CARICOM is demanding to be repaid for what Vincentian Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says is the awful and lingering legacy of the Atlantic slave trade. CARICOM heads of government are being urged to establish reparations committees in member states. The Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, ICAR, wants a prominent position on that committee. ICAR President Ras Bongo Sealy says for years the council has called for slavery reparations, adding that it is a call for collective healing and closure for crimes against humanity. He says ICAR deserves a seat at the national reparations table.
We are always willing and ready to make our contribution as it pertains to reparations, because this is something which is really dear to our heart. And not only just dear to our heart, but it is also a human rights issue. And since we were forcefully taken away from Africa, and the brutality and the hostility which our people went through, there is definitely the need for reparation.
The ICAR president is also a member of the Caribbean Rastafari Organization, CRO, which held its annual executive meeting on St. Lucia in September 2013. At that meeting, it was decided that countries like St. Lucia, which are establishing national reparations committees, do so with a sense of urgency. Rasbongo Seeley says he has written to Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony on this issue and is cautiously optimistic about plans to set up a committee here. The ICAR president says the legacy of the slave trade includes underdevelopment and poverty.
Our economy has been destroyed, our family structure has been disrupted, our whole way of life has been disrupted. And if we are to really make a meaningful contribution to our society, there is definitely the need to look at the means of repairing the damage which was done to us as a people.
CARICOM has not specified how much money it is seeking, but historians have pointed out that Britain paid slave owners £20 million when it abolished slavery in 1834, and that figure would be the equivalent of £200 billion today. A CARICOM Reparations Commission has been set up to work out how much should be paid. It is led by Barbados historian Sir Hilary Beckles. Alison Kentish, HDS News Force.
According to a new study from the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, coral reefs may be able to adapt to moderate levels of climate change-related ocean warming. The study, which was funded by NOAA, found that corals have already adapted to part of the warming that has occurred. Lead author of the study and an assistant professor at California State University, Cheryl Logan, said earlier modeling work suggested that coral reefs would be gone by the middle of this century. But study shows that if corals can adapt to warming that has occurred over the past 40 to 60 years, some coral reefs may persist through the end of this century. Warming waters in the Caribbean and elsewhere have led to a process called coral bleaching that happens when oceans warm by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above normal summertime temperatures. Through genetic adaptation, the study projected that coral reefs could reduce coral bleaching by 20% and 80% of levels expected by the end of this century if carbon dioxide emissions see a large reduction. Not all species will be able to adapt fast enough or to the same extent, so coral communities will look and function differently than they do today, Logan said. Climate change is not the only problem for corals. However, threats include pollution, storm damage, and rising sea levels, among others. Some projects in the Caribbean, such as one at the Body Dive Resort in Bonaire, have sought to rebuild coral reefs through coral nursery programs. For the JTV Caribbean News, Sean Rose.
And coming up next on JTV News. A pilot program for IT curriculum in primary school begins at Francis Lettsome Primary. New People's Hospital building handed over to government. Lecture shows widespread changes to BVI reefs over the last 2 decades. And UMI's Battle of the Corporations returns to the catwalk.